Wow. Hey, que me dice? Que me dice? Like saying, what do you say? Hey, what's happening? Mi gente, que me dice mi gente? Pura vida, pure life. Appreciate you guys tuning in on your Friday evening, or wherever you are in the world. It might be Friday night. It might even almost be Saturday already. But either way, this is a pre-Shabbat special. You know, get back into this research that started off the channel really because my very first series was about so-called flat earth, but you know it's 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 what we've learned and the research or whatever, the ideas, right? The ideas, just like what we're going to read today, of how the earth or the plane really is, has developed a lot in the last couple years. So I wanted to get back into that a little bit. This is taboo. A lot of people stuck on spinning on balls, things that spin around in space and stuff. But when it comes to these stories we get of possibilities of maybe that our plane is a little different, right, than we thought. Maybe it is still round, but in a different way. Is there an Antarctica, or is that just an ice wall? That's all the topics out there. You guys already know, but we're gonna bring it back. Bring back some of the research. So we can surf the wave, how we used to do back in the day. Surf the wave. Mic check, mic check. Can you hear me? Yeah. So yeah, we got a little exciting book that I actually read from like what, 8 years ago, almost. Um, we only read part of it. We're gonna try to read a good amount of this book. See, this fascinating account. You know, you guys will decide if you want to take it as truth or not. You know, but you gotta have a right orientation, because if you're still spinning around, you're gonna be dizzy. Like what happens when you spin around too much? You get dizzy, right? When you get dizzy, you can't really think straight. You're not conscious, really. You're not that, you're not there. Just like, right, you get hit in boxing, you're dizzy, you're not there, man. You want to stand up, but you can't. Your feet can't hold you up, you're so you gotta have a foundation, is what I'm trying to say. And all the old world cultures, you know, they all talk about a different type of earth plane with a firmament and all that. So from the previous research we've done again, but I'm gonna go ahead, before we begin reading, just remind everybody about, it says here, Gleason's new standard map of the world. This is from like 1892, I believe, on the projection of J.S. Christopher Modern College, Blackheath, England, scientifically and practically correct as it is. All right. This is in the Boston Public Library. This is kind of literally what they use, guys, in the Army and the Navy and everything. This is how the maps they follow in military. You find it on the United Nations logo, on many logos of military and government, like agencies and like especially to deal with security, right? So we're gonna go into it real quick, and I just zoom in, right? So you got the plane, right, looking flat, but on a different way. Not really flat, but flat. And what you guys notice right away, well, first of all, right, so you guys can see this is authentic. Look, patent 1892, applications made in all these countries on the projection of modern college, scientifically and practically correct. Okay, and so what do you see? Antarctica, you notice it's a circle around our continents, right? What we know as continents. Antarctica is like a ice wall, right? So the concept of this book we're about to read kind of talking about something like this, where what if there's worlds or more lands, meaning the plane extends further past the ice wall, so-called Antarctica. Okay, so that's just like a little bit, but again, this is the map they use. Go research that, you'll see. All right. And again, I got a lot of videos on, well, and my very first series on time ago. And again, we're gonna go over that again in the next upcoming videos. This is just to get our feet wet again. I have a lot of new subscribers, new people following me, and I like to go ahead and get back into that. All right, a little bit. So that's the Gleason map, right? Boston Public Library. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Wow. Yeah. And so we're gonna get into this book once again. Let me make sure I got everybody here. Okay. Elohua. It says here, Worlds Beyond the Poles. Worlds Beyond the Poles by F. Amadeo Giannini. Okay. Worlds Beyond the Poles. That's the book. Go right to the preface. Again, history or myth. We're just gonna surf the wave. It says the following pages contain the first and only description of the realistic universe of land, water, oxygen, and vegetation, where human and other forms of animal life abound. This is not a work of fiction, nor is it a technical analysis of anything. It is a simple recital of fact which transcends the most elaborate fiction ever conceived. It is diametrically opposed to the assumptions and the mathematical conclusions of theorists and technicians throughout the ages. It is truth. And again, before I begin, shout out to 432 The Drop Radio. All right. YouTube channel. That's the brother that I first saw ever read this book and, help me fix my orientation. Help me stop spinning on a ball. These pages describe the physical land routes from the Earth to every land area of the universe above us, which is all land. All right, land. Such routes extend from beyond the North Pole and South Pole, so-called ends of the Earth as decreed by the theory. It will here be adequately shown that there are no northern or southern limits to the Earth. It will thereby be shown where movement straight ahead from the pole points and on the same level as the Earth permits of movements into celestial land areas appearing up or out from the Earth. An original treatise basic to this book was written and has been expounded at American universities 1927 and 1930. Since then, the U.S. Naval Research Bureau and the U.S. Navy's exploratory forces have conclusively confirmed the work's principal features. Since December 12, 1928, U.S. Navy polar expeditions have determined the existence of interminable land extend beyond both pole points, out of bounds of the assumed isolated globe. Earth as postulated by the Copernican theory of 1543. On January 13, 1956, as this book was being prepared, a U.S. Naval air unit penetrated to the extent of 2,300 miles beyond the assumed South Pole end of the Earth. That flight was always over land and water and ice. For very substantial reasons, the memorable flight received negligible press notice, right? The United States and more than 30 other nations prepared unprecedented polar expeditions for 1957 to 1958 to penetrate land now proved to extend without limit beyond both pole points. My original disclosure of then unknown land beyond the poles in 1926 to 28, this is the time period he's writing all these things, right? Again, all before they started kind of creating this concept of space to people using Hollywood, Disney, magazines, comic books, and before moon landings and all that, that was way after all this. Before this, a lot of people were kind of going with this research. We're gonna read another book, another video, you guys will see. But it says here, those are the times he was writing this. Was captioned by the press as more daring than anything Jules Verne ever conceived. That's when he's talking about his writing. Today, 30 years later, the United States or Russia, Argentina, and other nations have bases on that realistic land extent, which is beyond the earth. Uh-oh, they got bases over there, huh? It is not space, okay? As theory dictated, it is land and water of the same order that comprise known earth territory. This work provides the first account of why it is unnecessary to attempt shooting up or out from the terrestrial level for journey to any of the astronomically named celestial land areas. It relates why such attempt would be futile. These pages present incontrovertible evidence that the same atmospheric density of this Earth prevails throughout the entire universe. Such a feature proves that, except for the presence of a gaseous sky enveloped and underlying oxygen content equivalent to that of the Earth, we could never observe the luminous celestial areas designated as star or planet, in parentheses. It is shown here that in a determination of realistic cosmic values, the observed luminous area of the universe about us represent celestial sky areas, and that they are as continuous and connected as all areas of this earth, continuous and connected sky. Hence, it is shown that there are no globular and isolated bodies to be found throughout the whole universe. They are elements of lens deception. Accordingly, the absence of celestial bodies, in parentheses, precludes any possibility of bodies circling or ellipsing in space. Okay? This work is radically and rightfully opposed to astronomical conclusions of all ages. It depicts the illusions developing from all telescopic observations and photographs of the universe about us. It clearly explains and vividly illustrates why those lens-developed illusions have been mistakenly accepted as facts. The book is therefore unparalleled in the long history of man's attempted interpretation and recording of the universe about us. It projects man's first understanding of the factual and endless universe which contains human life throughout its vast length and width, regardless of all abstract theory to the contrary. All right? That was the author. That's what he wrote. It says here in quotes, it says the discovery of new worlds in matter as in mind but the logical outcome of an infinite universe. Okay. So, real quick. Where we at here? Okay. So if you guys don't know, we're live, so we get to serve the wave live. Nos confunden. Nos confunden, you already know. Hey, shout out to this person's work, and whether it's a lot of creativity or whether he really knows what the worlds really look like. But he has some interesting books and ideas about it, how the worlds extend beyond our poles like this, showing the earth is one pod, like little different pods, beyond, surrounded by ice walls. So I'm just showing you guys this just for perspective, okay, of what so you see, that's the Earth, that would be the Earth, and this would be Antarctica. Then it'll be more lands and more lands and then more lands, and that's what you're calling space, right? It's all under the firmament, all under the firmament, right? So pretty cool. Check out his channel, you know, his books. He got books and everything, you know. You see, more lands beyond the ice wall. You guys get the picture? Nos confunden in Spanish is they confuse us. That's a good name. They confuse us. Nos confunden. Okay. So we see what we're talking about, right? Beyond the ice wall. Beyond the ice wall. Ice wall, Antarctica, right? It's literally an ice wall. You guys don't know. Antarctica is literally something you have to climb to get onto. Uh, where they usually show people, it's usually the island surrounding it. So this is Antarctica. It's literally an ice wall to get onto it. You know, I don't know if these are the best pictures, but it's literally an ice wall, right? Operation Highjump. Operation Highjump. So when they're saying earlier, what we were reading, he's talking about military expeditions and explorations. They called them explorations, but it was actually military operations. They were bringing in a whole force, right? Operation Highjump, officially titled the United States Navy Antarctic Development Program, 1946, also called Task Force 68, was the United States Navy operation to establish the Antarctic Research Base, Little America. Little America, huh? The operation was organized by Rear Admiral Richard E. Byrd, right? We're gonna get back onto Admiral Byrd, you know. Again, we're just doing a little refresh, and we're gonna read the book and, you know, just get our feet wet again. So it's a lot of interesting stories when it comes to Mr. Admiral Richard E. Byrd, right? A lot of things get controversial, you know, but a lot of stuff that he said was recorded in a studio, you know, in ABC, I think, in like the 1940s. So, you know, or 50s, you know, he said what he said. There's more land beyond the poles. He literally said that, you know, on that show. And you guys got to understand, they named their Operation High Jump because you got to literally climb up to get to Antarctica, high jump. You know, and that was in Antarctica. And, you know, they got the whole explanation, but then comes your Antarctic Treaty, where countries made a deal, you know, and nobody can go down there. You know, that's part of the treaty. That's part of the treaty. So, okay, going back to the book again, just want to have like a reference. Yeah, what up? Yeah. Says the change in scene. 1927, August. If it is so, the world would know of it. You know, if this is true, then the world would know of it, says William Cardinal O'Connell, Archbishop of Boston. 1928, July. Giannini's, since words cannot confirm you, words cannot deny you. It is your work and only you can give it. Dr. Robert Andrews, Millicom president. So this is, I guess, reviews about him. So his quotes, you see, says here, only dreams are true. The tangible and real on which our lives are based was yesterday's ideal, a rosy picture traced by some quaint visionary, impractical, half-cracked, painting his fancies eerie, and now it's solid fact. Whatever he holds stable, dependable, and sane was once a hopeful fable of castles built in Spain. Yeah. Before the fact, the fancy before the deed, the dream, the bills by necromancy, the hard material scheme. So all your towers that shimmer, your lamps that light the sky were once a tiny glimmer within some seer's eye. Time makes our empires scatter, but we shall build anew, for only visions matter and only dreams are true. Okay, Burton Bradley. Shout out for his poem. All right, so these are the contents. This is chapter 1. Let's go ahead and see what they say in here, right? Yanini. Chapter 1, extrasensory perception. A 1 minute express to the universe about us. This is reality. It is true, stranger than any fiction the world has known. There is no physical end to the Earth's northern and southern extent. The Earth merges with land areas of the universe about us that exist straight ahead beyond the North Pole and the South Pole points of theory. It is now established that we may at once journey into celestial land areas by customary movement on the horizontal from beyond the pole points. All right, just moving straight, not going up. You just gotta keep walking, man. It is also known that the flight course from this Earth to connecting land area of the universe about us, which appears up or out from the Earth, will always be over land and water and vegetation common to this Earth area of the universe whole. Never need we shoot up, as popular misconception demands to reach celestial land existing under every luminous area we observe at night. On the contrary, we will move straight ahead. You gotta walk straight ahead, and on the same physical level from either of theory's imaginary pole points. Confirmation of such a flight courses had in that of the U.S. Navy Task Force of February 1947. This is what we just read, Admiral Byrd, right, which penetrated 1,700 miles beyond the North Pole Point and beyond the known Earth. Additional and more recent confirmation was acquired by the flight of the U.S. Navy Air Unit on January 13, 1956, which penetrated 2,300 miles overland beyond the South Pole. Beyond, that's how far they went. There is no space whatever between areas of the created universe, but there must deceptively appear to be space in all observations. That apparent space results from the illusory globularity and isolation of celestial sky areas. The same illusory conditions have been proved to develop from observation of luminous outer sky areas of the terrestrial. Outer sky, in parentheses, means the sky as it is observed against stratosphere darkness. The concept that the universe is comprised of globular and isolated bodies originated from the curvature that is developed by all lenses. All right, that's how they develop their lenses. They do that on purpose. And that the lens developed curvature fostered the deceptive appearance of globular and isolated bodies comprising the universe. The bodies are illusory. It's an illusion. What we're talking about really with these wandering stars, vibrations, right? When you zoom into them. The ancient conclusion of Galileo Galilei that luminous celestial areas are isolated from each other and are circling or ellipsing in space was founded on the inescapable errors of lens functioning. The circling movement apparent to Galileo is an illusion in an endless land and sky universe of reality. The undulating or billowing of luminous sky gas enveloping the entire universe must deceptively appear as a circling of ellipsing movement. The deceptive appearance develops from the fact that such gaseous sky movement is detected by a circular lens. Hence, there is necessary reproduced the circular and therefore globular appearing lens image. Under the mobile sky gas, which extends throughout the he celestial realm, there is undetectable but very factual land, water, vegetation, and life like that common to this earth. Like this earth, huh? More land like this earth, more vegetation, huh? Therefore, the so-called stars and planets, listen up, of astronomical designation are in reality lens produce apparently globular and isolated areas of a continuous and unbroken luminous celestial outer sky surface. It envelops every land area of the celestial in the same manner that it envelops the terrestrial land. One may question how such features were known when science was without record of them. If so, one has but to finish reading this chapter, which adequately describes how, when, and where. It was October 1926 when he who sought the answers to the universe mysteries wandered through a woodland vale of the old New England, lavish with the scented breath of pine and birch and hemlock. There, as if directed by some unknown force, he viewed a massed white formation of the celestial sky before it developed the luminosity which the pendant twilight shadows would bring. Then it was that extrasensory perception's force was asserted, and eerie darkness gripped the woodland scene. The seeker in spirit viewed the vast unknown. Time and space became unknown as the portrait of cosmic reality was unfolded to this inner sight. Unmindful of the deductions and conclusions of the centuries, that formidable inner sight penetrated through the luminous sky depths of the or resplendent so-called heavens above, in parentheses, moving beyond the limited horizons of ordinary and standardized perception. He was privileged to witness that which the proud sense of sight and all its telescopic lens assistants, regardless of their flaunted power, had been unable to detect from the time the first crude telescope was fashioned. The sensational portrait developed by extrasensory perception was of the sublime creative universe pattern which had defied man's analysis from the unknown hour when terrestrial man first beheld the challenging celestial spectacle. And it brought realization that the then almost 1,900-year-old parable, with eyes ye see not, yet believe what ye see not, should also contain the admonition that lenses patterned after the human lens will be compelled by their function to distort things and conditions seen and supposed to have been seen in the universe above us, about us. That's pretty deep right there, you know. What if they intentionally really invented lens a certain way to create a distortion? His perception's view extended a million miles and more beyond the mathematical boundaries of a fallaciously assumed isolated globe Earth. It penetrated through the sublime celestial domain where deceptive lights, like flashing eyes of artful courtesans, had for untold centuries beckoned and wooed terrestrial man into their enlightening embrace. But terrestrial man, misreading the luminous signals, was denied the long dreamed of pleasure of their propinquity. Had he properly interpreted the signals, he would have long since acquired land areas of the universe about us. There was no misinterpretation of signals by the seeker of 1926. He journeyed to the celestial beacons on the wings of extrasensory perception's limitless necromancy. That magic permitted breaking through the long-established barriers of deduction, hypothesis, and theory. It disdainfully pushed aside the ice barriers of the terrestrial North Pole and South Pole, assumed Earth ends. And there beyond the poles, the most fascinating creative secrets were divulged. Throughout the ages, they had been held in sacred trust for the doubter and true seeker who ventured that way. The seekers then disclosed provided knowledge of land courses into all the land areas of the universe. Hence, to the discerning consciousness, it was plainly shown there are no ends to the earth, no ends. Wa, Akam, Akim, yeah. Affliction curse is always accompanied by a certain measure of blessing. And alas, each blessing contains an element of curse. Hence, dreamers must bear the flagellation which dreams impose. Rebels must pay a price for their rebellion. They who are driven by forces obscure and extraordinary must be denied mortal contentment. Dreams that have built civilization are magnificent obsessions, but they are nonetheless obsessions, and the obsessed cannot hope to escape the ruthless whipping of obsession. The constant driving urge of one endowed with extraordinary perception demands that the substance of such perception be displayed, defended, and protected at whatever cost. Talking about cognitive dissonance. And he whose unrestrained spirit compelled the breaking of every man-made rule applying to the celestial was forced to present his astounding findings and to make them interpretable. to the majority. But, but that majority, accepting and abiding by the conclusions and dictums of established theory, always contentedly dwell within the safety of deduction's ordained realm. They stay stuck spinning on a ball, where finders and findings in the considered abnormal and fearful extrasensory realms are never welcome. Thus, how was this pilgrim from the extrasensory world to present his gifts, which were readily perceived to have originated in that fearful realm? How, at a time of midnight's darkness, was one to make plausible the brilliant light of noon to the majority who had never experienced that light? Moreover, the majority had absorbed the century's teachings, which precluded any possibility of that light or that wisdom, that light, huh? Masonic talk, what we talking about? That which is original and is conceived beyond the limits of acceptable majority. Concepts need not disqualify the originator for workaday existence among the majority, for there need not be abnormality expressed in daily application to demands of the social pattern. Yet the dream, the invention, the discovery, or whatever is original, is too readily designated as madness. All right? They say, you crazy, man. What you talking about? What you talking about, Ice Wall, man? You crazy, Kurimeo. You funny, Kurimeo. Hence, how can the originator of such considered madness hope to woo adherents of the organized and acceptable thing or condition which is an error? Must not the majority always consider the new course revolutionary? And if the thing or condition advanced upsets centuries of teachings, must it not be viewed as an expression of one who is mad? The restless creative artist, the absorbed absent-minded inventor, the discoverer, and even the pioneer in an industrial operation may conform to the majority's social framework, but it is always a problem to introduce unwelcome findings to the majority who are absorbed in pleasing but fanciful and fallacious traditions which deny the reality of the findings. You'd rather be spinning on a ball. The enduring pages of history are finely edged with record of dreamer enterprise, which was diametrically opposed to the established concept of a particular time and place. But the dream helped build our civilization despite majority disdain. It was thus from the time the fool threw black dirt into an open wood fire, and through such foolishness established the value and purpose of coal, he and an exclusive battalion of others represented what the majority was pleased to label crackpots, in parentheses, visionaries, right? Dreamers and madmen, all. But they were the fearless experimenters and pure scientists comprising the always ostracized civilization building clan. Their indomitable spirits were nourished by a creative nectar too potent for normal majority consumption. Such dreamers forced to dwell in spacious loneliness, wherewith but rare exception compelled to fight alone, for it is most exceptional for members of the majority to risk their society's censure by open and active cooperation with an impetuous pilgrim from the realm where dreams so full of reality are incubated. Incubated, huh? The following, therefore, may serve as a timely guide for understanding values contributing towards civilization's development, and it may thereby permit easier comprehension of values this work is intended to present in terms that all may grasp. Socrates, the ancient and profound philosopher, was considered mad by the majority of his time and place, so-called Socrates. And the immortal Christus was denounced as mad on more than one occasion. All right, little Christianity. We may read of the strangeness of Robert Fulton, who harbored an insane idea of harnessing steam for the propulsion of boats. History also records Benjamin Franklin's insane tampering with the elements by catching lightning with his stupid kite and key. All right, dodge the hijack. People had electricity way before Franklin. The eccentricity of Thomas Edison is recalled. His particular insane notion was that of holding powerful electricity in a fragile glass bulb to produce electric lighting. Westinghouse had an equally insane idea of stopping a monstrous locomotive And trained with nothing more formidable than the release of air, that insanity gave us air brakes. All right. Well, all that technology was already around. These people just brought it back and they put their own little spin on it and they marketed it for sale instead of having it as free energy like we could have had. You know, we could have free energy, like we could live in a society where we have technology which is free for us, energy, water, all that. Why not? We are wise people. Like humans do are capable of doing so many things. Why can't we have clean rivers and free water? You may say that I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. Outstanding in the Dreamers Hall of Fame is the name of Louis Pasteur. He was not a member of the medical fraternity of his time, but he contributed to medical science its most profound values, while followers of medical dogma were busy castigating him for such ridiculous enterprise and mad claims. This limited review of the world's so-called eccentrics, crackpots, and impractical visionaries may be continued with mention of Alexander Graham Bell's eccentricity. His plodding perseverance provided our telephone. Telegraphy, too, was provided by the madness of Samuel Morse, who was guilty of the wild claim that messages can be seen throughout the world without the sound of a voice. The entry is hardly dry on history's page, recording the right's folly. Such a term described the majority's opinion of Orville and Wilbur Wright. Yet while the normal majority ridiculed the new enterprise beyond their understanding, the Wright brothers threw tradition's restrictions to the wind and navigated the first crude aeroplane over Kitty Hawk. All right, so again, most likely people were flying already in ancient times, like this is what I'm saying. So we dodged the hijack a little bit. But we get what he's trying to say, right? If people weren't daring, if they weren't creative, had their own ideas to improvise and pioneer new things, create new, better ways, then we wouldn't have a lot of things. Basically, is what he's trying to say, right? These and exclusive lists of others who were not popular dreamed their individual dream and made that dream come true. And their particular form of compulsion was, to them, both blessing and a curse. Therefore, as we are mindful of the unchanging manner whereby life force at work sows perception seeds so that mankind may always garner a crop fruitfully original, some guidance should be afforded for future reception of the seeds and the crop. Knowledge should develop that the new and the original of any time must, because of its newness, and only for that reason, be decried by constituents of the old. The old, the traditional and established is always the sacred cow feeding on the clover of assumption and each time's pasture of cultivated and acceptable conceptional values. Therefore, it must be preserved at any cost. The new and unknown is always fearful to the majority. The fears attending normal pursuits within an established social pattern may be dispelled or at least modified by one means or another, but the fear of that which is a new and unknown and which is beyond the conditions and afflictions of the ordered pattern must disturb the conforming majority. Routine is the order of the pattern, and though it is at times fatiguing, it embraces a measure of security symbolic of safety. Hence, the new and the unknown must be in some measure resented and must always fight for a hearing. Human nature demands that beliefs acquired must be cherished and protected, be they ever so incomplete and faulty. Isn't that, when it comes to history or it comes beliefs of who you are, isn't that so true? Right? Pay attention again. Human nature demands that beliefs acquired must be cherished and protected, be they ever so incomplete and faulty, even though they're not true or very incomplete, missing so much context. My truth is the truth, so say we all. I'm right, you're wrong, I'm right, I know it all, man. Thus, like the porcupine projecting his quills, and sensing possible danger, the majority become automatized to throw against the new and unknown the oral quills of skepticism, cynicism, and ridicule, without even hearing values inherent in the new. They fear that the new might encroach upon or upset cherished beliefs. Accordingly, with some appreciation of guiding principles making for human concepts, we may now review the early movements of this particular work, originator in his pilgrimage to make known the unknown universe of reality. In the summer of 1927, this dreamer's quest led to a widely known arbiter of the mathematical universe. A gentleman benefited with quarters in one of the famous ivy-draped buildings of New England University. After hearing only an introduction to the then unknown conception that in a realistic view of the universe there is no planetary isolation and there are no ends to the earth, the keeper of the mathematical universe vociferously exclaimed, "What? Would you have me doubt my senses? What you talking about, Willis?" Tranquility came the response. "Yes, since it is established that your sense of sight deceives you. That sense in particular should always be subjected to brain sight, where all true seeing is had." The great lens manipulator knew only the mathematical universe, and he presented it as the factual universe. In blindness of rage engendered by fear of the unknown, he shouted, "Away with you! How dare you tell me there are no celestial spheres and no space between such conditions? How dare you?" Undisturbed by such reception, the youthful pilgrim departed that university's magnificent halls of yearning and sought other fields for exposition of his perception's extraordinary findings. Shortly thereafter, he was graciously received in the Cardinal's Palatial mansion at nearby Brighton, Massachusetts. There, in private audience with His Eminence William Cardinal O'Connell, Archbishop of Boston, an impressive word portrait was submitted of the work then known as physical continuum. The work was at that time most premature, for there had not been confirmation of its sensational features. Thus, when subsequently afforded press reference, it was described as more daring than anything Jules Verne ever conceived. In that initial 1927 recital, it was shown that the theory of isolated stars and planets is founded on illusion, and it was asserted that every celestial area is definitely attached as the human legs and arms are connected with the torso. It was explained that such physical attachment of celestial areas and the physical connections of celestial areas with the terrestrial are always of land, water, or ice. All right? Land, water, or ice, just like the brother was showing in those maps, right? The different earths or, lands. Some of them were separated just by ice, water, land. It was further disclosed at that time conquest of the celestial could be accomplished by penetration of land existing beyond the imaginary North Pole and South Pole, or the true geographic centers of the supposedly isolated globe, Earth. Such movement from polar areas was described as leading directly into celestial areas appearing up or out from the Earth. That first day's audience with the cardinal occurred under the burning intensity of an August sun, which too ardently embraced the cardinal's Brighton garden. I know how that could be. I grew up in Boston, so the summers there are really hot. And the sun's warmth in conjunction with a dreamer's dynamic recital soon tired the aged prelate. The audience was adjourned in mid-afternoon. On the following day, the unprecedented recital was continued with a description of what every area of the Earth's outer sky surface would present to observation from stratospheric darkness and from other land areas of the universe. It was explained that the unified terrestrial outer sky surface would be detected as luminous and deceptively globular in isolated areas. Hence, the terrestrial sky would present the identical star and planet pattern projected by luminous celestial sky areas. It was then disclosed that the observable luminosity of all celestial areas results from the fact that every celestial area possesses the same sky known to envelop the terrestrial. It was claimed that the Earth's blue sky is luminous when observed against the dark stratosphere by inhabitants of celestial land territory. Hence, it is the existence of a blue sky enveloping all celestial areas which permits terrestrial inhabitants to observe that celestial blue sky's gaseous luminosity against stratosphere darkness. In 1927, science was without knowledge that any terrestrial sky area would be luminous when observed from beyond the sky. There had been no stratosphere observation or photography which could have shown the appearance of any terrestrial outer sky area. The first observation and photograph was achieved by the stratosphere explorer Professor Auguste Piccard in May 1931. All right, Augustus Piccard. Now, if you guys have been here since the beginning, you guys know in my right orientation series, when we talked about flat Earth back in the day, we did a little segment on Auguste Piccard. He actually, this is way before NASA, right? He actually flew, he went on this little rocket he created and he went really high. He had gone the highest any man had gone before, recorded history, right? And he said, the Earth is not like a ball. He said it's more like a ball with its edges coming up. He said the edges are coming up. That's how he described the Earth. And, after that, that's when you start getting your, Disney and Hollywood creating space and stuff. And then you get your fake moon landing eventually to seal the deal, right? But anyways, that's who Augustus Piccard is. His son became a famous sea explorer. So he goes into the lowest depths of this. So it's ironic. His dad went up to the highest, and then his son goes to the lowest. There is a commercial from, I believe it's Heineken. I think it's Heineken or Hennessy, one of those. I saw it was one of the Super Bowl commercials one year, and Augustus Piccard is in the commercial going all the way up. He went so high that he eventually broke through the firmament, and he ended up in water, right? The water's above. So he broke through the firmament, and he ended up in water, and now he's with his son in the depths of the ocean. So it's pretty crazy. But that's who Augustus Piccard is. They threw a little subliminal thing in that commercial. It only approximated a view and a photograph of a terrestrial sky area from stratosphere darkness because Piccard had not achieved sufficient altitude for a completely dark stratosphere background, which would properly express outer sky luminosity. The pilgrim who had explained such a condition as skylight had never journeyed to and within the stratosphere, yet he accurately described all that was to be seen by Piccard 4 years later. All right, what Piccard described, right? And his description contained all that was to be shown by the more detailed photographs procured through a U.S. Air Force stratosphere ascension over the Black Hills of South Dakota in 1935. In addition to records of stratosphere cameras in 1931 and 1935, he described in minute detail that which was photographed by the U.S. Naval Research Bureau's V-2 rocket cameras in October 1946. Such photographs procured at an altitude of 65 miles showed at an oblique angle a deceptively disc-like and isolated sky area over White Sands, New Mexico, and subsequent Naval Research stratosphere photographs at greater altitudes hold most sensational confirmation of physical continuity. There is no end. The unabating heat of the second day's audience at Brighton necessitated early retreat to the cool sanctuary of the Cardinal's mansion, where the recital of endless worlds and the manner of their conquest was continued. During those hours, the Cardinal's black Scotty was in faithful attendance. He seemed soulfully to absorb the recital's highlights. Perhaps he wondered what a strange tale it was for such environment. The recital described optical illusions resulting from the function of the human eye lens and then it was shown that such inescapable error of the lens had to be reproduced and enlarged upon by all photographic and telescopic lenses, which are patterned after the optic lens. It was explained how lens function demands lens convergence and how such lens convergence produces the deceptive curvature, which in turn is developed by the lens into disc-like proportion reflecting the roundness of all lenses. It was further related how lens property and function demand that every telescopically observed area of the celestial deceptively appeared to be globular and isolated. It was then rightfully asserted that every area of the Earth's continuous and unbroken outer sky surface would express the identical deceptions when observed and photographed from the proper altitude and stratosphere darkness and from celestial land areas. In other words, all observation of terrestrial outer sky areas from stratosphere depth and from any celestial land area would hold the illusion that the terrestrial territory is comprised of innumerable luminous and rounded bodies, and the illusion of globularity would impose the illusion of isolation. Therefore, if the portrait produced by luminous outer sky areas of the terrestrial would be a replica of that produced by luminous celestial areas, convincing evidence would be had that astronomical observations of the celestial deals with luminous sky gases covering the celestial as they cover the terrestrial. It logically follows that the apparent globularity and isolation of celestial areas is an illusion. To use a recent but most inadequate caption by the New York Times, November 5th, 1952, the planets are connected. The Times account attributed such conclusion to the California Institute of Technology. It seems fitting to note here that the author in 1928 expounded the physical continuum in the presence of Dr. Robert Andrews Millikan, then president of the Institute. So listen to what he just said. He said the guy who was telling the story about how it's actually more land with the cardinal, somebody was there in attendance, which was Robert Andrews, which was the president of California Institute of Technology. At Brighton in 1927, the terms stars and planets were held to have meaning only for the mathematical universe, which is based on or developed from the hypothesis founded on illusion. All right, yeah, those numbers. And again, this is stuff we went over in that old series of mine, and we're gonna go over it again. These numbers all add up to 666, 666, 666. You start doing the math. Yeah, their math is accurate because they created it. They created the programming of that math, right? Like the equations and stuff, and then they drew it. So this is all their hypothesis that math is founded on, the illusion. Conclusions herein related negate the existence of astronomy's star and planet entities within the bounds of reality and reason. They have application as isolated entities only to the world of the illusory. Thus, the conclusion in a world of reality holds that such assumed entities are lens produced. It is perhaps timely to present a note for readers unfamiliar with the Copernican theory. That theory, postulated in 1543, assumes that the Earth as an isolated unit in space rotated daily on an imaginary axis, while describing a secondary motion in its yearly journey toward and away from the Sun. The theory maintains that other assumed globular and isolated areas of the universe, the so-called planets, likewise revolve in mathematically precise space orbits, all right? So he's explaining the whole concept of space that basically is mostly from the Copernican theory, right? So-called. The concept of physical continuity, on the other hand, holding that the so-called stars and planets are connected luminous celestial sky areas with underlying land, requires no orbits or paths for assumed isolated areas that are not isolated, and none could be prescribed. Therefore, since such features as planetary isolation and space orbits can have application only to the illusion-based mathematical universe, any stipulation concerning universe limitations applies only to mathematical formula. Accordingly, the early and concise academic expression of this work, then referred to as physical continuum in the Giannini concept, reasonably oppose abstract mathematical limitations of the universe structure. The physical extent of the realistic universe continues to be indeterminable, despite the sensational results of modern naval research, which brings the universe about us so much closer to our terrestrial area. Any knowableness of the end of anything presupposes knowledge of the beginning, and the absurdity of abstract mathematics would be at once detected if the mathematical fraternity were to attempt designation of creation's beginning. Though mathematics may designate a mathematical end without knowledge of the realistic beginning, such an end can hold value only for the abstract universe of the astral mathematician. It has nothing to do with the structure and the extent of the limitless universe of reality. Basically, that's the hijacks. With today's superior view of universe reality as acquired through research of the past 30 years, it may be gleaned that Galilean mechanics are no longer required. Their purpose was to fortify the assumptive framework of the Copernican system. The laws propounded by Galileo had no consideration for the then unknown natural law which governs the realistic universe. All right, natural law, just got to keep it natural, keeping it natural by law. Yo, shout out to natural by law. They had application only to that artificial universe embraced by the Copernican formula. In the light of modern events, the premise upon which that mathematical and mechanistic universe was erected is proved to be illusory. Hence, there can be no further purpose for the mechanics intended to sustain a premise of illusion. In August 1927, the Cardinal was afforded a mental view of the polar extremities of a supposedly isolated globe Earth. Then, as the view was extended beyond the imaginary North Pole and South Pole points, he observed how the polar ice barriers diminished, and they were replaced with mountain ranges, fresh water lakes, and abundant vegetation. As the voyage continued, realization came that the terrain and the prevailing atmospheric density corresponded to conditions at the Cardinal's familiar Brighton estate. In that mental journey on a physical plane with the Earth, but beyond the Earth, it was then understood that to reach apparent up areas of the celestial, one need not shoot up or out from the terrestrial level. One need only move straight ahead over land, continuing beyond the North Pole and South Pole points of theory, right? All you got to do is just keep walking, keep going straight. Eventually, you'll end up there if, in theory, you could do that, right? You don't have to go up. And so when we're talking about extraterrestrial, right? Extraterrestrial, right? Meaning extra Earth, right? More Earth, or extraterrestrial, another extra being, from the extra Earth, extra, not outer space Earth or terrestrial. Like, get it? It's all in the words. The mental tour was directed to land underlying the luminous celestial areas astronomically designated Mars and Jupiter. So where is Mars and Jupiter really? Where the cardinal viewed startling similarity of the terrestrial and the celestial. From such points, the prelate had opportunity to observe the appearance of the approximate terrestrial sky area covering the Brighton estate. Looking up through the inner blue sky, enveloping Mars and Jupiter, the cardinal shockingly beheld against stratosphere darkness countless luminous and seemingly isolated disk-like areas. They were known to be areas of the terrestrial sky, but they presented a positive duplicate of the so-called heavens above. So-called heavens above, right? Or waters above, huh? As observed from terrestrial land areas. It was then realized that up is at every angle of observation from the terrestrial and the celestial. Hence, up is everywhere, and it is always relative to the particular precision occupied in the universe whole. Accordingly, the heavens above are everywhere, the heavens above. Twilight threw soft shadows over the Cardinal's brain estate as we return from the extraordinary celestial journey, and the second day's audience was terminated. That journey had shown the Cardinal what Galileo could not have hoped to show cardinals of his time. Galileo had been restricted to a description of only that which is the illusion of producing lens of his construction uh, uh, could detect. That lens was impotent to detect cosmic reality, and its successors are also impotent to detect cosmic reality. All right. Yeah, we've been surfing the flat drop for a long time. The flat drop is kind of what got me started. My first kind of real uh series I had going. It was called Right Orientation. You know, shout out to Drop again, 42 to the Drop Radio. So yeah, again, we're just reading this book just to get our feet wet again. And just talk about it, right? History or myth, right? The illustrious cardinal realized the import of what had been shown as his guests prepared to depart. He remarked, "If it is so, the world will know of it." As the departing guests slowly trod the garden walk where seeds of truth had been sown, the cardinal's black Scotty campered over the green. Some of the seeds of that day's planting of Brighton were to sprout within 4 years through the original stratosphere ascension of Auguste Picard. All right, remember I told you his story. Others required 8 and 20 years, respectively, through the U.S. Army Air Corps stratosphere ascension of 1935 and the U.S. Naval Research Bureau's V-2 rocket flight of 1946. Contrary to popular belief, no explorer had penetrated beyond either pole point prior to 1928. Nobody had gone past it, in our so-called modern times, right? Because we already know, right? Again, shout out to Drop and everybody else showing, we see the old maps and we see Antarctica with no snow, ice-free, connected to South America, with animals, people being called Terra Incognita or Terra Santa, Holy Land, Terra Santa, or Australia, which means little southern continent, right? Australia doesn't mean, just the continent we know as Australia today. Back then in those maps, they were talking about the south, right? Little the southern continent, Australia's. So nobody had penetrated the South Pole, North Pole, after the resets, after the resets, before 1928. Allah, wow, hey, yeah, welcome, yeah, mi gente. Press captions of the years have confusingly conveyed the idea that Arctic and Antarctic flights have been over the pole and therefore over the end of the earth. And that's not true, guys. They don't fly over there. Such has never been the case. Over the pole point is possible, for there is such a mathematical point, but over the end of the earth is not possible, for there is no end. Huh. Certain early explorers reached the pole point, but to return they were obliged to retrace their course to the pole point. In other words, they had to turn around. Huh. They did not go over the pole in the manner implied by press accounts. So you see how they describe it when they have to turn back. They say, they had to reach the pole point, so they had to return and they had to retrace the course back to the pole points. And no, you're just turning back, literally. It is the globe symbol which conveys the false idea for press and public that movements over the pole from one side of the earth to the other side is possible. That symbol does not attest to the realistic extent of the earth or the earth's factual relation to the universe whole. It is simply a convenience of archaic theory. It was never anything else. Trips from Alaska to Spitsbergen and vice versa represent movement only in a west to east and east to west direction. They were never journeys due north from the Arctic Circle to and over the pole. No explorer has ever moved over the pole point, north or south, and arrived on the other side of the earth. All right, they've never really crossed it, what he's trying to tell you, in the manner indicated by the globe symbol, how they show us, the earth today. Nobody's really crossed it like that from one side to the other. You know what I'm saying? Like catch it over down South America and come out on the other side in what, Australia or New Zealand or something like that. In theory, right? That's what he's saying. Nobody's really ever done that. They still haven't. You can't go over there. There's an Antarctic treaty. You can't go over there. If movement could be made over the pole, and if it were possible to return to the starting point on the opposite side of a supposedly isolated globe, Earth, there could be no possibility of going beyond the pole. Earth, as has been accomplished since 1928, no beyond could exist unless it were the originally conjectured space. The formidable factor prohibiting airplane flight or other movement in a northerly direction from one side of the North Pole area and arriving on the opposite side as the globe symbol indicates is that endless land extension beyond the pole point. That land, unknown to the theories of 1543, is the land this author treatise described as early as 1927, and it is the land beyond which Rear Admiral Richard Evelyn Byrd, all right, U.S. Naval Forces and Naval Task Force penetrated in February 1947. Yeah, that's where they went. And he said it. That identical factor of land beyond applies as prohibiting agent to any southerly movement over the South Pole, which would permit return on a northerly course to other areas of the mathematically prescribed globe Earth. All movement north from the North Pole and south from the South Pole must of physical necessity lead beyond the Earth's northern and southern mathematical boundaries. And it leads directly away from and beyond the conjectured globe Earth. All right. So again, we're live and we got people here, people tuned in. We're chilling, okay? So real quick, again. All right, ice walls, right? Ice walls. So we got uh flight tracks. Flight flight tracks, air flight tracks, right? So, so air flight tracks, let's see if it comes up. Yeah, there we go. So as you guys can see, all right. In general, they kind of fly, so this is not really showing it, but in general, they fly, most planes fly in the upper hemisphere, so-called upper, right? And up here, they don't really go like from here to here. They have these weird flight patterns that you have to go here first, then over here, or you got to go here, then over here, then you got to go down. So when you start analyzing those flight tracks, right, and you put it on a so-called flat Earth map, it actually looks like a straight line, you know? Let's see if it comes up. So, right, this is what they're talking about. Polar routes, flights that go over Earth's poles, over Earth's poles. So again, they go over the northern hemisphere in general. This is what we're trying to tell you. They don't really fly in the south. Okay, and you see how they curve and they go here, then they go down. And on flat Earth, it actually would go straight. This would be more over here, in theory, all right? Like over here, right? So Africa, right? You're over here. You do have to go kind of to Europe and then to Africa a little bit, right? It should be remembered that the so-called northern and southern ends of the Earth were only assumed. They were never factually determined. Nobody's going to say, yeah, I reached the end of the Earth, right? Further, the assumptive value was imposed more than 400 years ago, at a time when restrictions on polar explorations prohibited determination of factual terrestrial extent. It should also be held in mind that the Earth cannot be circumnavigated north and south within the meaning of circumnavigate. However, certain around the world flights have contributed to popular misconception that the Earth has been circumnavigated north and south. Over the North Pole, with return to North Temperate Zone areas without turning around can never be accomplished because there is no northern end to the Earth. The same conditions hold true for the South Pole. All progressive movements beyond the respective pole points leads beyond the assumed ends of an isolated globe Earth. and that area beyond constitutes the land connection with the celestial. That connecting land, though appearing up or out from terrestrial points, other than the poles, is attainable by movement straight ahead from the imaginary pole points. This is not 1927. The existence of worlds beyond the poles has been confirmed by U.S. naval exploration during the 30 years since then. The confirmation is most substantial, though information has not been divulged from every rostrum. They of the rostrums are as little informed of the meaning of polar exploration as members of the press. That is why this book is dutifully, but most arduously written. All right. So let's see what we're looking at here. So it says the universe as it must deceptively appear, and as it has been misinterpreted throughout the ages. All right, this is how they want us to picture Earth, right? Space, land, water, space, and all that, right? Endless connecting land beyond North Pole. Okay. Then we got another one here. Okay. It says figure 2, the created universe as it exists on a physical connected plane with the Earth, where every area is endowed with the identical Earth attributed. Okay. Let's see how long we've been here. Okay. We're going to go ahead and get into chapter 2 of the book. Why not? Chapter 2, the connected universe, mistress of deception. Let us remember, it is in the brain that sees, and that the human eye is only a faulty window which shows us but an infinitesimal portion of the universe about us. And that right there is deep, right? And it's true. What we project, what our eyes project, is only a fraction of what our brain can see or what is actually there, you know? If you guys don't understand that, if you didn't know that, and also based on the perspective of the different light spectrums and all that. But our eyes can only see certain things, right? That's why certain animals have different uh, perceptions too, can see the other things like cats, right? So since here, figure 1 indicates the deceptions experienced in the telescopic observation of the universe about us, but it is not intended to show the true contour of the universe whole. It is meant to express only the salient features of physical continuity. It shows how all connected land and sky areas of the universe have positive continuity with the Earth, but it also shows how every sky area of the universe must deceptively appear to telescopic detection as a globular area, and that deception of globularity imposes the delusion that the areas are isolated. Connecting areas or parts of the illustration's luminous outer sky curves may be considered star areas between the planets. Though the illustration shows them all more or less alike, there does exist variation in their luminous depth, but they are all areas of the luminous outer sky surface of the universe. Variations in luminous depth result from differences in intensity of gaseous sky content. Such variations in turn develop differences in the astronomer's spectrum and spectroscopic analysis. All luminous areas of the universe illustration are, in common with the universe it represents, observable parts of an infinite, continuous, and unbroken outer sky surface. It covers underlying celestial land, water, and ice as it covers such elements of the terrestrial. There is also shown the region of atmospheric density between land surface and the inner blue sky. The distance is the same at celestial level as it is at terrestrial level, and the oxygen content is sufficient to sustain vegetation and life at celestial level. In the Copernican concept of planetary isolation, the sun is assumed to occupy the center of the dark stratosphere, and connecting outer sky areas of the universe are assumed to be isolated units, and they are assumed to perform a rotative movement around the sun's center of a mathematically prescribed universe subdivision known as the solar system. That solar system arrangement, which embraces the Earth, represents something of a combined celestial and terrestrial pinwheel. To make for easier comprehension of physical continuity, the pinwheel solar system center, or sun, has in a way been pulled out to afford it reasonable placement as a guide or leader for the entire connected universe. As the illustration shows, every previously assumed isolated area of the universe whole, including the Earth, holds its original position in the universe structure, and every area maintains its daily and yearly relation to the sun. Accordingly, the illustration shows how the land and the sky of the celestial extend to and connect with the Earth's imaginary pole points. It shows that we may move beyond the Earth without falling off the edge or falling off the ends. All right? You don't fall off. Like they were saying, the following descriptive material, in conjunction with the illustration, should afford ample guidance for comprehension of the factual universe as it was created. Number one, the dark center represents the perpetually dark stratosphere surrounding the terrestrial and the celestial. It is part of the dark void of infinity wherein the universe whole was created. Number two, the luminous outer partial disk to be observed against stratosphere darkness represent the skylight developed over all areas of the universe, a continuity of the same blue sky we observe from land surface everywhere on the terrestrial is seen by inhabitants of every other universe. We're looking at the same skies, huh? So universe area when they, as do we, look up or out from their respective land surface position. And looking through their inner blue sky at night, they observe the luminosity of our gaseous outer sky areas in precisely the same manner we observe their outer sky luminosity against the darkness. Since their lenses cannot be expected to penetrate through areas of our luminous skylight and detect the land under our sky, it is most likely that they have deduced as erroneously as of our and as we have of their land. So he's saying, hey, there's other people, there's other things out there, you know. Number three, therefore, the inner side of all outer luminous disks, like areas of the illustration, may be understood to represent the familiar gaseous sky enveloped observable from any terrestrial location as our particular blue sky. From all other land areas of the universe, the blue sky likewise seen represents the particular sky of inhabitants of such areas. Inasmuch as recent U.S. naval stratosphere photographs of outer sky areas proved them to be luminous and presenting the identical appearance of celestial areas, confirming is had that there exists the same gaseous sky content for the celestial as is known to envelop the terrestrial. Since the luminosity of outer terrestrial sky areas corresponds to that of outer celestial sky areas, it follows that atmospheric conditions underlying the sky enveloped where our celestial cousins dwell must correspond to atmospheric conditions prevailing at terrestrial level. Thus, the inner blue sky must also correspond throughout the entire universe. Our experiments show that without the existence of an inner blue sky of gaseous content, there could be no luminous outer sky, which is an expression of sky gas to be observed over terrestrial or celestial areas. Number four, hence, any Martians, Venusians, Jupiterians, or Librans looking up or out from their respective land positions are during the day permitted to view their gaseous blue sky envelope with the same varying depths or shades of blue that we observe in our blue sky. The depths of blue will depend upon atmospheric conditions prevailing at the various celestial locations at the time of observation. You know, yeah, and, what I picture is like, when without the space stuff, all these different planets when they show in these movies, right? And outer space, Star Trek, Marvel, all that, right? Star Wars, right? They have some of them have almost the same atmosphere, the same sky as Earth, same colors, some have different, but this is kind of like what I picture when I'm reading this stuff, right? So more lands instead of like spinning balls in space, right? This is what they're kind of trying to say right here. So further, as the celestial sky's chemical content or gaseous intensity varies from time to time and from place to place, as does the content of our sky, it produces a corresponding variation in the intensity of our outer sky luminosity to be observed against the dark stratosphere by remote observers everywhere. Therefore, the inner areas of the illustration denoting terrestrial and celestial sky as observed from land surface should not be constant blue death. By the same token, the outer sky luminosity will not be constant, but there are variations in luminous quality. As will be later shown, variations in luminous sky movement produce or accompany change of blue and luminous sky expressions. Says here, number 5. At night, inhabitants of all other parts of the universe observe seemingly globular and isolated areas of our luminous outer sky in the same manner as we are permitted to observe luminous, seemingly globular and isolated areas of their sky. They are permitted to see only the outer luminous expression of our sky as we see only the outer luminous expression of our sky as we see, of their outer sky. Since their most powerful telescopes cannot penetrate through our skylight, they cannot hope to see our land or our blue sky as we see it until we arrive on the land under their blue sky. As our most powerful telescopic lenses cannot penetrate through skylight of the celestial, we have been unable to detect the land and vegetation under the luminous sky enveloping the entire celestial realm. Number 6, moreover, over the luminous outer surface of our entire terrestrial sky, which we know extends unbrokenly, other dwellers of the universe are compelled to observe millions of apparently globular and therefore seemingly isolated bodies. They are luminous sky areas, and their number would depend on the power of observant telescope lenses and other physical factors herein described. Number 7. Nowhere throughout the length and width of our terrestrial land and sky, or throughout the endless land and sky of the created universe, do discs, spheres, or globes actually exist. Despite their seeming existence, they are entirely lens created. They represent the most striking examples of lens illusions ever known to man. Number 8. Therefore, the illustration's inner blue sky horizontal curves and the outer luminous sky curves are intended to indicate the deceptions experienced in observation. Neither the Earth nor any part of the universe about the Earth curves in agreement with the deceptions of curvature here presented. We may grant such curves realism only insofar as they have been created by the lenses. No lens can escape producing a curve at the proper distance on the horizontal or the perpendicular. As previously related, the physical structure and properties of all lenses demand that the curve be created. Then the lens-created curve is accentuated by concept into the full-bodied and isolated globe or sphere as distance from the photographed or telescopically observed area or object is increased. There is in reality no such curvature, all right? No such curvature to the endless sky and land continuous throughout the universe. You just gotta keep walking. The only such curvature that might possibly exist, and which we could never hope to determine, would be that of a conceptual nature, having the universe as a whole curve in infinite time and space. Granting such an unverifiable arrangement for the connected universe whole would in no way interfere with the all-important factor that the universe is connected and continuous, and that journey may be had to all areas thereof by movement on the same physical level with this earth. He's saying, hey, there's a way to get there if they would allow it. That indicated movement would be straight ahead, north from the North Pole and south from the South Pole. Number 9, photographs taken whenever and wherever in Peru, in Asia Minor, or in our own Rocky Mountains in no way prove the so-called curvature of the Earth. They prove only that the utilized lenses could not avoid developing curves that have been mistakenly interpreted as applicable to the Earth's contour. The lens itself created the curvature in the same manner that the optic lens, by grace of its structure and function, creates curves and deceptive horizons without the experience of everyone. For example, does the sky really curve down and meet the water, or the land where horizons indicate it does? We know now that it doesn't, despite appearances, because physical contact with such horizontal points proves there is no such meeting. Does the square or U-shaped opening to a tunnel draw together as it appears to do and become globular to our sight as distance within the dark tunnel and away from daylight at the opening is increased? Though it deceptively appears to draw together and become globular, experience has taught us that the entrance retains its original shape and size. Does that does not the square top of brick chimney become deceptively globular as photographing altitude is increased directly over the chimney opening? Such deceptive appearance must be imposed by the lens. Knowledge dictates that the chimney opening does not become globular. One of the classical and most common expressions of the unavoidable deceptions ensuing from lens function is that of the two separate railroad tracks which seem to merge or meet in the distance. A very modern example of illusion resulting from lens functioning is presented in the flight of jet planes. As the speedy jet is observed moving on a direct horizontal course from east to west, or vice versa, it must deceptively appear to be shooting up on the perpendicular, then prescribing a definite curve or arc as it approaches. Then, as it passes overhead and recedes in the distance, it appears to be dropping down to the land surface. The jet horizontal course remains the same from the time it was sighted on one horizon until it was lost to view at the opposite horizon. But the lens develops the illusion that the jet was first shooting up and then shooting down. Nothing more vividly attests that the lens produces the curve. These examples, plus a thousand others that could be cited, eloquently express that all lenses are subject to the functional error of the optic lens, for all lenses were patterned after the human eye lens. This means that the lens itself is drawn to a focal point, creates the illusory curve, and that curvature illusion in turn produces globular areas and objects where in fact nothing rounded or globular exists. Therefore, as the inner blue sky seemingly dips or curves to meet the land or water, under the power of lens convergence, which creates our horizons, so do the luminous outer sky areas of the universe suffer the same affliction. It makes no difference if the sky area is of 100 miles or of 100,000 miles. As distance is increased, the original illusory curve becomes deceptively filled in with body property, and there is projected the further illusion of a completely globular and isolated area. In such manner does the universe about us become cluttered with isolated globular and spherical bodies that have no part in the structure of the universe. In 1931, Stratosphere Ascent of Professor Augustus Piccard, the photographing camera lens produced a partial disk of the terrestrial sky area, which Piccard barely penetrated at an altitude of 10 miles. That disk development, which was referred to as an upturned disk, was partial only because sufficient distance had not been achieved from the gaseous sky area. In the subsequent 1935 Air Corps ascent to an altitude of 14 miles, there was sufficient distance from the sky area and the partial disk became rounded out to present the appearance of a complete disk. One more One may more readily understand that lens development of curves and disks if one holds in mind a picture of the first quarter or crescent moon and mentally follows its monthly course of filling in or completion to the full moon. Confirmation since 1935 of the unfailing development of the illusions described in all telescopic observation of the universe about us attest to the reality of physical continuity. Every foot of the endless celestial empire, telescopically observed and astronomically designated stars, planets, etc., is thereby shown to be a physically connected, or to be as physically connected, as Figure 2 describes without illusory curves. The celestial is shown to be as such a continuance of this Earth area, as the various countries of the Earth are physically connected and made continuous by the known land and water links. The terrestrial has affinity with the celestial in the same manner that the states of these United States are affiliated with the national whole. They must deceptively appear to be physical disconnections in the universe whole, where each faultily observed celestial and terrestrial sky area, and being brought to convergence under lens functioning, seemingly becomes isolated from its neighboring area, as previously described, an inescapable condition of observation. Strange as it may seem, the necessary allowances for such a handicap of observation have never been made, because the handicap, though known to be applicable to observations at terrestrial level, is denied application to observations at celestial level. Complete domination by the mathematical prescription of celestial mechanics, though that prescription contains no ingredients from the universe of reality, has endowed illusions developed in telescopic observation of the universe with a reality they cannot and do not possess. Therefore, we should never lose sight of the fact that the designation of celestial areas as globular and isolated is at the best a vague assumption within the world of the astro-mathematician, the mason, the architect, rather than a creative fact within the world of things of which we are a part. Why further observation of figure one may realize that were one occupying any area of the illustrated universe whole or observing any area thereof from a stratosphere position, the depicted curve and luminous outer sky areas of the terrestrial and the celestial would deceptively appear as full-bodied, isolated globular entities. This observational condition would result from the fact that when the luminous curved surface area is detected, one's mind is automated to fill in the body's proportion. In the drawing, it is not possible to show the full globularity with such curved areas impose on the mind and make for the concept of isolation. Average intelligence can readily discern that the luminous curved areas will not be connected through observation. They are always disconnected. Though connected here for illustrative purposes, observation would hold a dark area at every point of connection. Thus would there develop the concept of their isolation. Study of the inner sky curves may serve as a guide for understanding that the lens does not conveniently prepare appearances as illustrated. The lens does not just the contrary. It severs each connection. Then stratosphere darkness envelops each curved area on both sides and underneath. In so doing, the area becomes isolated to all appearances. Though the inner sky curves have also been drawn as connected, the lens observing any area of the blue sky and the outer luminous sky continue unbrokenly ad infinitum, as shown in figure 2, but the lens must deny such realistic continuity. All right, so I hope you guys understand what he's saying, breaking down what the lens is really doing, and to our perspective, really. Life is no more than our individual concept of life. We all see and believe only that which we want to see and believe. Hence, primed observations are always of doubtful value, as dubious as spies. Non-existent celestial, globular, and spherical areas are closed with reality through the capriciousness of optic lenses aggravated by other lenses, and conceptual enlargement of the faulty image. So long as one observes luminous celestial and terrestrial sky curves produced by the lens and holds the illusory globe to be reality, it is unlikely that anything but globes and spheres will be encountered, regardless of the power of telescopic lenses, all right? You're always just gonna see globes and spheres, man, when you're still spinning on a ball. Moreover, the assumed Earth's sphere and its companion celestial pseudo-spheres pseudo-spheres have become so firmly fixed in mind that presentations of such spheres which naturally show full-bodied properties are accepted as being factually descriptive of the composition of the universe. You think that's real because you believe in it. Such acceptance is had in spite of the overpowering fact that no telescopic observer and no photographing camera ever recorded realistic body proportions for any area of the universe. The lenses detected and reproduced only a disc-like surface area which was credited with body fullness. Therefore, the glamorously portrayed Earth globe and its celestial counterparts present nothing more profound than an outstanding expression of lens error and human misconception based on that error, plus the artful embellishment of globe symbols by otherwise capable artists who likewise are under the domination of the popular misconception. Huh? Your blue marble, huh? Modern discovery establishes that the assumed isolation of the terrestrial from the celestial is a fallacy. The Earth's northern connecting land link with the celestial is confirmed point of theory. In February 1947, a United States Navy Arctic Expeditionary Force under the command of Rear Admiral Richard Evelyn Byrd achieved a memorable 7-hour flight over land extending beyond the northern geographic center, or mathematically prescribed northern end. You guys hear that? Of the Earth. That flight confirmed that there is no northern physical end to the Earth, and that the 1543 conclusions were most premature. The northern physical continuity of the Earth with celestial areas of the universe also had its counterpart in the land now known to extend beyond the South Pole. So not only in the South Pole, but North Pole too. Listen to what he's saying, and I'm picturing like those concentric rings, like I guess we're in another ring. All future physical progress beyond the imaginary North Pole and South Pole points must and will lead into real land areas of the universe appearing up or out from our present terrestrial position. We may move as Rear Admiral Byrd moved beyond the North Pole and out of the physical bounds of this Earth on the same physical level as this Earth. All right. So if you guys, again, Google, Rear Admiral Byrd, flat Earth, Antarctica, all that, you guys will see what he's talking about, right? No, we've gone over it and we're going to go over it again, future videos, going over it. Our movement into land areas of the universe about us need never vary from known movement and journeys from New York City to Chicago, or from Boston to Hong Kong, or between whatever terrestrial points one is pleased to consider. We may fly the distance with means now at hand, or we may journey in any of the other established modes for making possible journeys from city to city and from nation to nation of the terrestrial area. Except for the vast ice barriers at the Arctic and Antarctic regions, especially at the Antarctic, we might even walk. We might even walk. Huh. I told you, you got to keep walking straight, man. However, early explorers found walking and dog sled movement most suitable transportation over frigid polar areas. That is one of the reasons why there was no concerted early effort to peer over the top of the world, so-called, to determine what actually exists beyond the supposed terrestrial ends. Further reason may have been that one does not perilously attempt to penetrate into a beyond which his concept denies. If concept has not first established a thing or condition, in this case, land beyond the poles, it cannot and does not exist despite its reality. All right? Despite the lamentable restrictions of theory, men have persistently wondered about the Earth's extent. The earliest attempt to reach the North Pole point and to satisfy that curiosity was made by Sir Martin Frobisher of England in 1578, but the notable accomplishment of just reaching the pole point could in no manner permit determination of territory extending beyond the pole point and out of bounds of the theorized Earth globe. One is not permitted a vista of polar territory to almost unlimited horizons as one is viewing the plain of Kansas. One's determination must be based solely on the mathematical formula which maintains that the geographic point reached is in fact the end. And though infinity extends beyond in a continuous land and water course, men would have no reason or inclination to penetrate that course if concept holds that such course did not exist. Therefore, though the space myth did not restrict movement to the polar areas of an assumed Earth ending, it did most definitely restrict movement beyond such supposed Earth ends, where men believed they would be projected into space assumed to exist beyond the ends, all right? So they create this whole false narrative, right? And so, oh yeah, there's nothing up there anyways. You're just gonna come back down. Yeah, that's what they want you to think. Hence, the awesome conjecture northern and southern space of the Copernican theory erected the identical barriers to northern and southern progress as the obsolete Ptolemaic theory had imposed on movement east and west from the old world prior to 1492. That's the hijack. This is the true old world. How fearful has been the word space? How fearful has been the word space? All right. Who's here? Who's here, huh? All right. Go back to nos confunden, huh? More land. So you guys see the ice wall, right? This is kind of like the concept of what he's saying. But then he's saying there's more land in the north. So are we in another concentric ring? Is our lands in a concentric ring? You know, interesting. Or what does he mean by that, right? What does he mean by that? All right. Again, you see the lands, and then again matching the Gleason map that the army, the military uses. You see, Antarctica is not a continent; it's actually a wall around our plane. What we supposedly know, there might be even more land, more continents. You know, so flat Earth map. Second, guys. So that was the end of chapter 2, actually, just in case. That was the end of chapter 2. And I think we'll leave it off there when it comes to the book, so we can don't make the videos too long, because chapter 3 might be a little longer. So, you know, but they still kind of show space sometimes when you're talking about flat Earth. Still trying to show space. Accurate flat Earth map, you know? And then, hold on. See that? Now, flat Earth map, and you put UN logo, right? In case you guys didn't notice before. So the United States, the United Nations, sorry, logo, you guys see the flat Earth, just like the Gleason map. It's showing the Earth as it is. And they know, and remember we went to this map? Let's see if this is it right here. Okay, remember we showed this map is a real map from the 1500s, showing Antarctica or the ice wall. It's not an ice wall, it's just a wall. Let's see, ice free. You got animals, rivers, and you see South America is always connected to so-called Antarctica. All right. But this is a real map, right? This is from the 1500s. I've shown the source in previous videos. So military logos, not just the UN, but almost all of them. You know, I've shown it in my old videos. They all got the flat Earth on them. Yeah. But this is what I was saying earlier about the flight paths. They're like all weird. They go up and down, up and down. On a flat Earth map, it actually looks straight. As that's saying right here. It's like a straight flight. Right? Me and me and my boy Joseph, right? Shout out to Joseph. We're talking about, you know, because he was talking about flying from Phoenix to Costa Rica and how crazy that they're trying to make him go to Florida. Although they're trying to make them go like somewhere totally different before coming to Costa Rica when, in theory, if, you're in you're in Arizona, why can't you just fly down to Costa Rica right here? Why do you have to go to Florida? You understand what I'm saying, guys? Why do you have to, if you're in Arizona, why can't you just fly down, right? Supposedly, right? You go to Costa Rica. Why are you making him go to Florida, then get on another flight, go over here? Isn't it the same distance? Aren't you trying to save, you know? You can offer direct flights and everything, but it just doesn't exist, guys. It's crazy. There's no direct flight from Arizona to Costa Rica, which I find weird. I find really weird. They made Augustus, let me see, Picard, and then see commercial. So this is the commercial I was talking about. Let me see, we got the video. All right. Hopefully we don't just a commercial. We're not gonna put the whole audio. Yeah. All right, so this is a Hennessy commercial. This is Augustus Picard. This is what he did, right? In 1928, right? This is what the guy was talking about. This was a real thing. This was a real person. He went up as high as most people go, and you see I was showing now they're showing the curvatures. That's the hijack. They're showing space, but look what happens. He eventually goes so high that he hits the firmament. Check it out. And the eye perception, you see his eye, the symbolic, the lens, they just showed. And he ended up in water. He ended up in water, right? You see that? And he ended up with his son. His son became a famous oceanographer. Like he studies the ocean and goes into it and goes really low depths. Like has the record. So Augustus Picard, right? That was what the guy was talking about right there. All right. Just talking about he saw the outer edges go up. It was like a disc, he said. Yeah, the extended plane. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so let me see. Let me see. Chapter 3 is so we'll get on to chapter 3 in the next installment. All right, all the next chapters. I don't know if you guys enjoyed the reading. All right. Again, this was at episode 27 of a history or myth. So, you take it as history or myth if you like. I just try to go with my senses and my heart and what, even in the old cultures, I forgot to tell you guys the old cultures. Let me see. Old world, old world cosmology. Uh, and you can see in most old world cultures, there's always like a flat earth and then there's a firmament. Look, this is the Incas and they got the sun and moon inside the firmament. Do you guys see that? And it's flat. In Hindustan, you see the turtle. Look at that with a dome. And then over here, you see the tree and the dome. Even in Egyptian, you have the dome, which is all these figures have deity names, right? They all mean something. We've shown all this, right? Like Navajo. Check it out, guys. So Hebrew, right? The Bible, there's a firmament and on a flat, unmovable, firm land. That's what it says in the Bible. Unmovable. We're not moving, right? And they got the firmament, just like in all the old world cultures. All right, you guys see that? So, and then I don't know. I guess it stays in the realm of belief, but it just seems to me more logical, and also based on all the old world cultures, they all got almost the same. Why we're the only ones that got a ball spinning, right? Why do we have NASA? NASA, right? Nazis, NASA, yeah. Oh, I gotta get up that. I didn't see that bad word there. All right. So like this image right here, There's a very subliminal painting. You see the guy sticks his head out of the firmament. You see the stars and the moon and the sun is inside. And now he's looking at something else. The clockwork, huh? What Enoch saw, huh? What Enoch wrote about, huh? Yeah, the book of Enoch. There's árbol cósmico, so-called Aztec. You see the firmament, the tree, the earth, waters below, waters above. Heaven of heavens, ocean of heaven, firmament with the stars, earth, underworld pillars, right? And the firmament, and the firmament. Yeah. So that's where we're gonna leave off today. I hope you enjoyed the reading. We're gonna get back into the book for sure. Not, we're not gonna wait too long. I'll get right back into it soon. Here goes the Egyptian cosmogony. I told you this is the firmament. It's the same thing, guys. This is the land. It's the same thing. The firmament. Yeah. Oh, wow. Waters above, so below. You got to stop spinning so you can think straight. You got to stop spinning so you can think straight. Get what I'm saying? Wow. I appreciate everybody that tuned in. I'll give you your Friday evening back. Shabbat Shalom. Thank you for all the support and the view today, for being here with me on your Friday afternoon. I'm going to actually work on some shorts that I'm going to upload tonight too. So that's why we're going to end it right now. I want to go ahead and get those shorts going so we can attract, the younger generation and the people who don't like the long videos. Maybe they'll visit my channel if they like the short, right? So we're gonna work on those. But I hope you enjoyed the reading on this book and this idea, right? Which seems more real, more realistic than a spinning ball. Beyond the ice walls, worlds beyond the poles, worlds beyond the poles. All right. I thank you for joining me, guys. Appreciate you guys. Much love. I hope you guys have a great, not a weekend because that's a bad word, but we say a strong end, and then we have a strong beginning, and then you just have a strong, instead of a week, a strong life, strong, pura vida, familia. We are familia. Aloha, Hawa. Aloha is Hawa. Yeah. Hawa is peace in Japanese. Peace, peace. Breathe. Just breathe. Hawa. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Mi gente, much love and respect. Pura vida, mi gente. Hawa.